This is my in-depth review on Viva Raw's complete recipes for cats. And a lot of cat owners are excited to see that Viva finally released these nutritionally complete recipes. Because in the animal kingdom, cats are deemed obligate carnivores, meaning their diet needs to be meat-based in order to stay healthy. But unfortunately, when it comes to pre-made raw, the market is more geared towards dogs. Maybe it's because dog owners are more open to switching their dog to raw, but for the cat owners who want to switch their cat to raw, they often feel left out. It looks like Viva Raw understood the importance of switching these little carnivores to a raw diet. But before I get into my review on their complete line for cats, who is Viva Raw? Viva is a small but growing raw food business in North Carolina that started up with making 80-10-10 prey model grinds for dogs and cats, which consists of 10% raw bone, 80% muscle tissue, and 10% secreting organs like liver and kidney. A diet like this provides about 80% of the nutrients that our pets' bodies need. So Viva worked to create recipes that provide all the nutrients dogs and cats need. Viva claims to always source USDA-inspected meats from smaller farms, and all the meat in their recipes are hormone and antibiotic-free. Right now, they only ship within the United States. In this review, I'll be going over what's in their complete recipes for cats, if the ingredients are right for cats, the price, and the pros and cons. Viva offers 5 nutritionally complete recipes for cats that are available year-round: chicken, turkey, duck, beef, and rabbit. But they also have seasonal specials that they do a few times a year, like elk, venison, emu, and lamb, which are also nutritionally complete. Alright, let's dive into these recipes, starting with the chicken. First of all, the packaging is super cute. Viva recently changed their packaging visuals, and I just love this little kitty on the side of the ingredients label. Speaking of ingredients, I can easily see that the diet is 98% chicken parts, and the last 2% is natural supplements. Now, it doesn't say this on the packaging, but the chicken portion is broken down into 80% muscle meat, 10% raw bone, and 10% secreting organs. For this recipe, that means 10% chicken bone, 80% chicken meat, heart, and gizzard, and 10% chicken liver. Bones are important in raw diets because they are the best source of calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium, which helps keep your cat's bones strong. Muscle meat provides most of the protein to the diet. Hearts are exploding with B vitamins, iron, zinc, and selenium, which really help boost the nutrients in the recipe. And liver is the best source for vitamin A, so it should always be included in raw diets. The other 2% contains mostly whole food ingredients, which is great since many companies just use synthetic, lab-created nutrients to balance their recipes. But there's something about these ingredients that makes me extra happy, and it's that most of these are animal-based whole foods, not plant-based, which is amazing for obligate carnivores like cats. These are foods a cat's body was designed to process, so the nutrients they provide will be easily absorbed by their body. These are foods like Chilean mussels for manganese, fish oil for omega-3s, cod liver oil for vitamin D, oysters for zinc, and egg yolk for additional trace minerals and vitamins. But wait a minute, what about these other ingredients? Psyllium husk is actually a plant-based ingredient, but its purpose is to provide fiber to the diet. Icelandic kelp is also a plant-based ingredient. However, its role is to provide iodine. And iodine is hard to find in animal-based ingredients unless you feed the thyroid gland, which is hard to get. Nutritional yeast is a deactivated yeast that actually provides a ton of natural B vitamins, which cats have a very high requirement for. Vitamin E oil is added for vitamin E, however, it's naturally derived, so I still count it as a natural ingredient. And finally, taurine and manganese protonate, and these are synthetic nutrients. But there's a reason they're added in. Taurine is an amino acid cats need that's naturally found in all animal-based foods. However, when these foods are ground up, a lot of the taurine oxidizes and gets destroyed. So to be sure that the food provides enough taurine, Viva adds some back in. The manganese is added because Viva's nutrient analysis with Chilean mussels shows that they don't provide enough. So they top up the food with a bit more. Alright, now that we've gotten a first look at the ingredients, let's take a look at the guaranteed analysis of this recipe. In most recipes we look at today, the protein, fiber, and moisture will be around the same percentages. However, something to keep in mind is the fat. Cats have a relatively high fat requirement, so I always make sure raw cat recipes are around 10%. For a protein that's relatively lean like chicken, I'm not surprised to see that it's 5.4% fat. This is okay to feed, but I would rotate with a recipe higher in fat every few days if you can. Now, let's look at the price. At the time of this review, this recipe is $6.75 per pound, but it does come in two 1-pound packages, so $13.50 total. When comparing Viva's prices to other popular raw food companies that offer complete cat recipes, they are a bit cheaper when comparing most of their recipes. Alright, Tangy is very excited to taste test, so let's see what he thinks about the chicken recipe. Next, we have their turkey recipe. Like the chicken, the percentages of the meat and natural ingredients are about the same. The 10% bone is ground turkey bone, the 80% muscle meat contains turkey meat, heart, and gizzard, and the 10% secreting organ portion is turkey liver. The natural ingredients added to balance are the same in every complete cat recipe. When we look over at the fat percentage, I'm much happier to see 6.5%. Turkey is still a relatively lean protein, but we're getting closer to 10%. The price for this recipe is $7.25 per pound, so $14.50 total for the 2-pound package. Let's see what Tangy has to say about it. Alright, let's move on to the last poultry recipe, which is a bit more rare to see. Duck. These ingredients are very similar to the chicken and turkey recipes, and contain duck bone, meat, gizzards, heart, and liver. Just as a side note, duck liver is super high in vitamin A, so I personally suggest rotating with different recipes every now and then, since this recipe is 10% duck liver. And all it takes is 3 to 4% to meet vitamin A and copper needs. It looks like the fat is higher in this recipe as well, coming in at 6.5%. The price for this recipe is $9 per pound, so $18 total. Tangy, what are your thoughts on this last poultry recipe? Next, we'll take a look at another rare protein, rabbit. This recipe is unique because it includes an ingredient that the poultry recipes don't: kidney. Most secreting organs, besides liver, are hard to remove from poultry, so they're often not included. But from rabbits, they're easy to get. So this recipe includes rabbit bone, meat, liver, and kidney, along with the other foods to balance. Rabbit is a pretty lean meat, so the fat percentages of this recipe is 5.5%. Not many raw food companies offer rabbit, so this is exciting considering rabbit would be a natural prey animal for cats in the wild. This recipe is $10.50 per pound, so $21 total. Let's see if Tangy likes it. The last recipe Viva offers is beef, and it's probably my favorite. This recipe includes beef bone, meat, heart, liver, and kidney. And I'm super happy to see that both heart and kidney are included in this recipe. The more organs, the better in my opinion. But that's not the only reason it's my favorite recipe. Let's come on over to the guaranteed analysis. Would you look at that? This recipe is 9.7% fat, which is super close to 10%. This recipe is $8 per pound, so $16 total. Okay, Tangy, last recipe. Tell me what you think. Well, the results are in. What did you think about Viva Raw's complete and balanced cat recipe, Tangy? Now, what do I think? Let's go over the pros and cons. First, the pros. Number 1. I love that Viva not only uses mainly whole foods to balance these recipes, but they also consider that cats are obligate carnivores, so they provide most nutrients through animal-based ingredients. Number 2. They add extra taurine to the diet, which you may not always see in raw grinds for cats. This is an amino acid that's very important for our kitty's heart, vision, and digestive system, so it has to be in the diet. Number 3. Viva is a very transparent company, and they provide a nutrient analysis of their food and also show where they source their meat. Number 4. These recipes are formulated for all life stages, so kittens can eat these recipes as well. Next, the cons. Number 1. Most of these recipes are a bit lower in fat than I'd like to see, but I understand that this is so the food contains more nutrient-dense meat and organs. Luckily, the beef recipe is higher in fat, so you can always rotate between leaner and fattier recipes. The next 2 cons are not as big of a deal, but I would have liked to see rabbit heart added in the rabbit recipe since every other recipe includes heart. I would have also liked to see the liver reduced to 5% in the poultry recipes, since that's really all it takes to meet vitamin A needs. But I understand that there wasn't a second secreting organ they could add to reach that 10% secreting organ need. So, if you want your kitty to try out Viva Raw's complete cat recipes, you can use our code to save 20% on your order.